welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about replacing the vanity. In this particular case, we're going to be replacing just the base of the vanity, the top part of the sink itself. We're going to take this and we're going to reuse it on the new vanity that we're going to install. So what we're going to do first before we do anything is I'm going to show you what kind of tools we're going to need, and then we're going to go underneath the sink and we're going to talk about what we're going to do. This we'll talk about in a second. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. These are the tools you're going to need. You're going to need an adjustable wrench like this, some wrenches like this here that you can adjust to whatever size you need. This one in particular I have because I know that this one fits this piece right here that we're going to possibly need. We're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove everything inside there, and this is just an electric screwdriver that we use here, but if you didn't have this, you can use a conventional screwdriver. We're going to need a bucket to catch any kind of water that leaks out. We're going to use a utility knife to score underneath the bottom of the counter. Right up here, the counter itself is glued down to the base of the cabinet. So we need to cut that free up in here so we can pull this off. We are going to look around here just to make sure that it's not glued to the wall itself, and if it is, what we're going to do is you'll take the utility knife and you'll cut along the seam here and then down over here so that we can remove the countertop without damaging the drywall behind it. Now, as you can see back here, there is no silicone back here, but we do have a silicone bead right here that we're just going to score with the utility knife so we can remove it. We have a light so we can see what we're doing underneath the sink. So, first thing I'm going to do, and you don't really have to do this, but I'm going to do it so you can see what I'm doing in here. It's fairly tight to get in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these doors off so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. It's no big deal. It's just a couple of Phillips head screws and these doors come right off. Like I said, you don't have to do it. I'm just going to do it so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now before I start, I just want to point this out to you underneath here. You're going to need a light so you can see what you're doing up underneath here. But as you can see, this is the plumbing right up underneath here. This is your supply lines that come into to the sink itself. We're going to shut off that valve, and we're going to turn off that valve. And once we turn them off, then we'll loosen up that 5/8 nut on top of it, and we'll see if it stops leaking. If it doesn't, then we'll use them pieces. If it does, then we're in good shape and don't have to worry about it. We are also going to take out the drain right in here. We're going to remove that. And the way you do that is you put a bucket underneath the bottom, and we just unscrew these collars here, and we take the entire trap out of the picture altogether and remove it to the side. Then we're going to come up underneath here, and as you can see, right there, you see that Phillips head screw? That's what screws the cabinet to the wall itself. All right, so, all right, let me get in here, and we're going to get started then. Then we're going to take these valves here, and we're going to shut these off as far as we can. All right, now that's closed already, and we're going to close off this one here. It may start to drip, just so you know, and the reason it might start to drip, I'll explain to that in a second. When a valve hasn't been operated in a long time, sometimes it leaks right through the stem right here. So if that happens, we'll deal with that as it does happen. But if it does, you just tighten up that nut in the back and it'll make it a little bit tighter and it'll reduce the leak from there. But that's not the case here. So now we have that off, and we have the other one as well off the hot. Now I'm just going to reach up and I'm going to turn the water on to make sure that the water has turned off. Okay, we have everything is off, so we should be in good shape. Now we're going to take our wrench. Now there's different size wrenches, but most of these are 5/8, and we're going to loosen up that 5/8 right there. Now you want to make sure when you push on that 5/8 nut right there, that you don't push on it too hard and wind up breaking your valve here. So we're going to put this on here, and we're going to push on it and see if it breaks loose easy, which it doesn't. And that's when you're going to take your wrench like this You're going to come up underneath the bottom right here. You know what, I'm going to take this off here so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. That's just the Phillips head right here. This is just the handle. So what you're going to do is you're going to take an adjustable wrench, put it on over it like this, so that the valve itself doesn't twist and bend the piece in the wall, the piping in the wall. So we'll put this on here like this, take our 5/8 wrench like that, and then we break it loose. Make sure you have a bucket underneath in case it drips. And then once you loosen it, you can take it off just like this. I'm going to make sure you have a bucket there because it may drip. Okay, we look like it's pretty good. Now we're going to grab another bucket and we're going to remove this one over here as well. So let me grab another bucket and we'll come right back. Okay, so now as you can see, this is a little bit tight up in here because we have the piece that opens and closes the drain right here. So we're going to remove this and get this out of our way so we can work a little bit. You just take this, you squeeze it together, and you slide it back like that. And then we just take this off out of our way. We're going to take this out for now because we are going to reuse this later. But for now, we're just going to put this to the side. And now we're going to loosen up that nut right up there that we had on the other side, the 5/8. So we're going to get in here with this wrench. And now this one came out a lot easier than the other one did. So we're in better shape here. We didn't have to take that valve off, or the off and on part of the valve. So we're just going to loosen that up. We have a bucket down below again. Alright, so now our supply line is now disconnected. We're going to leave these buckets right here for now, and then we're going to take out these right here. This is the trap, or the drain portion of it. And the way that you take this out, again, you're going to put a bucket underneath the bottom of it so you can catch any kind of fluid in here. This is going to have water in it, so you are going to get some dirty water coming out of here, just so you know. Most of the time you can take these out by hand. You just grab the ring and give it a twist, and it comes right out. Alright, so now that's disconnected. And we're going to remove this one here because to get this piece out of that drain right there, we're going to have this whole thing out. So we're going to loosen this one here as well. Like I said, this is going to leak a little bit, just so you know. Alright, we'll put this off to the side for now. And now we're going to take this out over here, same thing, just give it a twist. And we can take this out of the wall. And then we just pull this right out. Now if you're changing it, you get a new one and put it in, but we're going to probably reuse this one. So we'll just put that off to the side for now. And now the sink is totally disconnected. We're going to leave this on here for now just so we know which gasket we will use. And now this sink is ready to come out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up underneath the bottom right up in here. And we're going to take our utility knife like this. And we're going to cut all along here so we can get that countertop. All right, so just so you know, I did take the knife and I did scribe it along here to cut the silicone here. And now, as you can see, the countertop is loosened up. I cut along here so we didn't do any damage to the wall. I scribed it along right here with the utility knife as well. And now the countertop is ready to come off. So I am going to need my assistant to help me with this. So we're going to lift this off and then we'll come right back. Okay, as you can see, we have the countertop off. We have the reason I cut away is because it's a little awkward to carry and pull it out without helper. So thank you, helper. All right, now next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out the base unit itself. This is where the silicone was actually on here to keep the countertop from moving. As you can see, there's quite a bit of silicone here, which is a little difficult to cut because it's so thick. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect the vanity from the wall. We have a screw right here. As you can see, there's a Phillips head right there. And we have a Phillips head screw right here. And then that will have the cabinet itself loose. But as you can see, these supply lines, you see where they came through the cabinet right here? Obviously, it's not going to fit past this valve here. So once we pull this out a little bit, we're going to actually cut this with a saw or a sawzall or something like that. We'll see how it goes. But we're going to actually cut this so we can get everything away without damaging anything. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull it away from the wall so we have a little bit of play. Now, like I said, you can either use a regular screwdriver to remove the screw, because there's only a drywall screw that's in here. You can take it out with a regular screwdriver like that. Or you can use an electric screwdriver just to take the screws out. And these are screwed right into a beam, just so you know. And now the vanity should be loose. There is some silicone on this corner here, so we're going to play with it just to get it to move a little bit. But I'm going to scribe it down in here just a little bit, I think. Okay, let me explain to you why this is not coming out. You're probably going to run into the same issue. As you can see on the baseboard right here, the baseboard is cut really close to the cabinet, and the same thing down on the bottom here. So we have this wedged into the corner right there. So we are going to play with it a little bit to get it out of there, but we're going to pull it out of that corner right there first. So let me just get a tool, we'll put it in the back and we'll pop that out. Okay, now we're going to pull it away from the wall. Now the reason I'm using a spackle knife in this particular case, you can use a spackle knife, a piece of wood, anything that you want to get behind here and pry on it. Because the thing you do not want to happen is this part, when you're in here prying to get this out, you don't want to have this pop a hole in the drywall. So we're going to use this behind it, like this. Put it behind it to hold it like that. Okay. And now, as you can see on the bottom down here, it came out. So we now can get behind it right here. So we're just going to lift this a little bit. We're going to do the same thing on this side over here. We're going to pry it away just a little bit. Again, put your spackle knife behind it, underneath here. Give it a little bit of a pry. Be careful that your silicone is not holding it in place, which is what's happening right here. Okay. And that's it. So now our cabinet is loose. Okay. So now we have these rings that were around it, the metal rings that actually were around this. You just take a pair of cutting pliers and you snip right through when we take these off. The reason we're taking them off is because we needed to get the valve through the back over here. But now we have the covers off in the back. We cut the vanity in the back here with a Sawzall to cut away so we can get it over these valves here. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take out that screw right there so we can get it through the back over here. You want to hold the valve so it doesn't turn on by accident. And we'll take the set screw out and remove the set screw like this. And we'll put this on the side because we are going to need to use this again. And now we have a smaller hole needed to get this valve assembly through. So we did cut this one off here as well. And now we have it out. We can just take the vanity, lift it up, and just... That's it. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to clean up in here a little bit. We're going to clean off all of that silicone stuff that you see on the wall right there because we have no need for that, as well as over here. And then we'll get ready and get our new vanity and we'll put it back in. Okay, all right, so now what we did is I didn't bother showing you this because it's just a reverse of the procedure to take it apart to reinstall it. But basically what we did is we just put the new cabinet in the position where the old one was. And we took a stud locator and we found where the beam was located in here. In this case, the beam was right here. And we also have another beam right over here on this side of the outlet up on top right here. The beam runs right down here. So what I did is up on the top over here, I drilled a pilot hole. And down on the bottom, down over here, I also drilled a pilot hole. And I screwed the screw into the wall in the back and the side, and then that makes the vanity nice and tight in the opening. It's held on the side as well as in the back, and it's not going to move. Next thing I did is we took some silicone. Now you want to use an adhesive type silicone. In a bathroom I use one that's actually mold resistant, just because it is a little bit moisture involved in this. And what I did is I put a thin bead of silicone up on the top of the new vanity, all the way around all four of the top pieces of it, and laid the vanity in on top of it. And now it's going to dry. The silicone will dry, and that's what will hold the vanity top to the vanity itself. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to come down underneath here and we're going to reinstall our drain that we previously took off. Now I just want to point this out to you. You remember when I took this off that there was I should take it apart. I'm going to show you actually. Oh, okay, this one here is actually not. But up underneath here, you can see see that ring right there? You don't want to ever reuse the old ring. You always want to use a new seal here because you don't want to put this back together and wind up having a leak someplace in here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab a rag. We're going to clean this off here. As you can see, I put cardboard down in here so we don't contaminate or make the vanity itself dirty. We're going to clean all of this debris off here. We're going to slide a new O-ring up in here, and I'm going to start to put it all back together. As you can see, I stuck a rag in here to actually keep the sewer gas from backing up into here while we're working. All right, so let me grab some tools. I'm going to get the correct ring. As you can see, there's quite a few different ones. And we're going to clean this off, and then we'll continue. Okay, so now that we have everything, we're going to put it back together. I just want to bring this out. This vanity is actually 4 inches higher than the previous, 4.5 inches higher than the previous vanity. So we are going to need to use something like this, an extension. I'm not saying to use this particular brand. This is just the one that I happen to pick up, so I'm not pushing that brand. But this is an extension. If we need to extend the length of this tube right here, we'd use something like this. And these are actually meant to be cut, and you can cut it to length with just a regular standard hacksaw. So let's put this back in, and we're going to see how much we're going to need. Okay, now after we have our trap put back, all back together, we're going to reconnect our supply lines. And as you can see with the supply lines here, the lines themselves are actually, they screw onto the top of the valve very simply right here. It's a 3/8 thread. And up on top where it connects onto the supply line from the faucet, it had on there, as you can see, here I'm cutting it right off here. You see up the top there it had, let's get some more light so you can see better. You see how it had that compression fitting on there? It was actually a, that ferrule right there. You cannot reuse these. Once you use them, you have to replace them. So you can see I have a line cutter on there now, and we're just cutting off that line so that we can install the new line itself. This is the line, and it has, as you can see, this is the part that goes onto the valve, and this is the piece here that connects onto the top of the supply line, and it comes with the new ferrule inside there as well. So after we cut that off, we're going to clean this up a little bit with some emery cloth, and then we'll slide this piece all the way up as far as it can go, and then we'll snug it down and reconnect this line. Now, as you can see, that line has got a loop in it. The reason it has a loop in it, because the line itself, you can't get one the length that we need it, so you can put a loop in it just like this here, and it'll keep it from being a problem where it may not be the exact length. You just loop it around and you make it the length you need it. This particular one is 16 inches in length, but they do come 12, 16, 20, all different lengths depending on what you need. All right, so all right, let's continue with that right there, and we'll get that piece cut off. Sometimes they're a little bit tight to turn, so you'll notice I'm going to do it with a pair of pliers. And then we're just going to continue to rotate. You don't want to tighten it up too tight and crush the line itself, because we need it to be perfectly round when we put it back together. So we're just going to go very slowly. And as you can see, this is the piece that we cut off of it. You can try to reuse this ferrule. I don't like doing it because I've done it many times before, and you always, no matter how tight you tighten it, you'll wind up with a little bit of a leak in it. So cut that little section off. That way when you put it together, you won't have to worry about it. Now what I always do is take a piece of emery and just clean up where the new ferrule is going to go. Alright, so it's nice and clean. We're going to wipe off any kind of material that's on there. Now I'm going to set you up on a tripod, and I'll put it back together, and we'll make sure it don't leak. Alright, so now we have this piece here. We're going to take off this old nut. We're not going to reuse that. We're going to take our new one, which like I said has the ferrule inside of it right here. We're going to take off the paper that tells you what size it was. I'm going to take this, and you're going to push it all the way up on the line as far as it goes like that. And now we're going to hold the bottom nut and tighten the top nut up. This way you make sure the line is still all the way up as far as it needs to go. Okay, and that's nice and tight now here. Now we're going to take this line, we're going to loop it around, and we're going to connect it on just like that. Be careful not to cross thread it going on. And now we have it snug. We're going to make sure that this line is lined up nice and straight, and we'll snug this down. Now you don't want to over tighten it and break it. Okay, And that's it. All right, so it's nice and tight here and nice and tight there. Now, the reason I say is you don't want to over tighten that is because if you look inside here, this is another supply line. I bought 2 of them just in case. It's a rubber seal inside there, so we don't need to gorilla tighten this down. We just need to snug it down to compress that rubber against the top of that valve. Now, if we did our job correctly, we should be able to open this and we shouldn't have a leak. So let's open it easy. So far, so good. Nice and tight. I always dry everything off thoroughly to make sure that there's no leaks whatsoever. And we'll let this sit for a little bit. And the way you can check it is just look at your hands. And if your hands are dry, then you know you're okay. All right, so now we're going to screw our valves back together with the nuts like that. And then we'll wrap this job up, and this should be all finished. All right, so let me put these on. I'm going to get a Phillips head screwdriver. We'll screw this back on, and then we'll come right back. Okay, we're just going to snug it in. We're not tightening it in yet. We want to catch our bottom screw as well. That's it, the door is on. We're going to put our next door on. Over here on this side here, we'll put this other door on. And then we'll reconnect the holder here to hold the roll of toilet paper because that's where it was located. And that's it, you're all set. All right, make sure it's not leaking from the supply lines. Make sure it doesn't leak from the trap itself. Make sure all of your connections are bone dry, and that's it, you'll be all set. All right, don't over tighten the screws because you don't want to strip them out. And that's it, you're ready to go. All right, turn all your waters on and make sure you have everything working exactly as it was. And of course, don't forget to reconnect that stopper in the drain if you have one. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.